Joining us now, we have the perfect voice to break it all down for you. That is Marty Chavez. He's partner and vice chairman at Sixth Street. Can talk about this from the perspective of somebody deep in the technology world, as well as kind of on the forefront of finance, investing in this stuff. Marty, the DeepSeek moment. How do you explain this to your partners, to your clients? Are there going to be more DeepSeek moments ahead for the world of AI?
There's going to be more such moments, big moments, that gets everybody's attention. And I'll also say they're going to be arriving faster. To my mind, DeepSeek is really more a story about open source, and then secondarily a story about quant trading, and then also a geopolitical story. But what's really impressive about what they've done is not that they've pushed the boundaries of science. I don't really see that that's what's happened here, but they've done some absolutely brilliant engineering, combined it all together, and then put it open source under the MIT license, and that really is changing the landscape. You have to say that in the future there's going to be more open source AI, and that balance between open and closed and proprietary, I would say, is going to head in the direction of open.
So we're hearing a lot of people in Paris kind of poo-poo the claim that it only cost them $6 million to build this model. It's very difficult to believe, right? I mean, that wouldn't even be enough chips to go in a set at $40,000 a pop if you expect the Hopper cost that much, and that's even the last generation. But the point is, Marty, they've done what we assume, they've done what they have equal to what ChatGPT is capable of, or Gemini, for far lower cost. Does that then make you think, when you hear that the four biggest hyperscalers in the US are spending $300 billion this year, that they're overspending? Are these American companies throwing money away?
We need to really recalibrate that. Saying that they spent $5+ million on training is like saying I spent that much on electricity yesterday, without talking about all the electricity that I bought in the last year, and without mentioning the fact that I have a power plant, right? So yes, the very last training run probably cost that. I'm willing to believe that claim. But there's a lot of CapEx behind it. That cluster that they built on is well over $1 billion worth of NVIDIA chips. And so you shouldn't be confused by the training run at the end costing $5 million. That market reaction was incredible. They have done some amazing engineering. They've gone below the CUDA layer, and they've done things deep in the lower software layers called PTX, and they've done 10 other things, and it's amazing. But others have done similar things. The Google Flash models have similar cost and performance characteristics. So really, it's a story about open source. The thing that they've done that is completely different is taking all that work and putting it back into open source, and starting with open source, starting with Llama, distilling it. I actually ran it over the weekend on my MacBook Air, not the full version, but the distilled version, and it is an amazing thing. But look, Jevons paradox has been talked about quite a lot recently. The clear reaction is, if AI has gotten a little bit more efficient, and they've shown that, but others such as Google have also shown that, then we're going to be able to do more AI for the same price.
And we should also mention, of course, Marty, you are on the board of Alphabet too, so as somebody who would certainly know. So much of the market has been focused on the big tech giants and their spending when it comes to the world of AI, but I'm a little more interested in how this broadens out beyond just technology. Of course, you spent many years at Goldman Sachs as well, were very pivotal in the way it really transformed in the way it used technology, made systems more efficient. How is this new iteration here, or this next iteration of Gen AI, going to change finance?
Yeah, so Sonali, as you know, I've been in this world for a while. Weirdly, I got a PhD in AI in 1991, when we didn't even say the word AI because it wasn't working that great. And as amazing as this moment is, and it is amazing, AI is software. It's more software. We've seen versions of this before. You'll remember algos. We've discussed it a lot, maybe rolling back 10 years. Algos changed a lot of things on Wall Street, and a lot of buy and sell orders that people people used to scream into the phone are all just done by computers. And there's been really a bifurcation. People who insisted on doing something that the computers could do better are no longer doing that. People who embraced the computers and said, well, I'm going to trade even bigger blocks of risk have done extremely well. And really, it's important that we talk about AI safety here, just as we talked about algorithmic trading safety. Long time ago, we all realized you couldn't dictate how the algos should be written, nor could you prove that they're correct. But you could do things like make sure that there's capital adequacy every time you put a trade into the market. That's the market access rule. And that made things much safer. We absolutely need to do the same thing with AI. When these AI systems intersect with the real world, the stock market, the bank payments, any system you can mention, we need to have safety and standards applying at that boundary, just as we did with algos.
We're probably roughly the same age, Marty. I remember the first time I heard someone use Google as a verb. I remember covering the 3G license auctions in Europe. I remember my first BlackBerry. Back then, we thought that the telecoms needed to throw as much money as possible at this opportunity, right? And Brian McAuliffe, who's an internet historian, says telcos raised $1.6 trillion from Wall Street to do that, to lay fiber, to buy 3G licenses. But it took a long time for that to pay off. Now Moody's says we're going to spend $2 trillion on AI over the next 5 years, building that
the
infrastructure.
BlackRock estimate gets north of $3 trillion. You can get to $10 trillion pretty quickly.
So are we overspending? You know, we've done it once, Marty. You remember it well, I'm sure. Are we overspending this time as well?
Look, I don't want to make predictions about the future like you. I pay a lot of attention to the past and to patterns. To put that $2 or $3 trillion in context, so the fiber optic spend was 20 years ago, and that was for a different thing. Look, I think AI is qualitatively different. Right there, we were moving bits around. We ended up using all that capacity. We're still installing capacity, right? And maybe it took longer to use that capacity than some people had in their plans, but we eventually used it. But here with AI, we're talking about something that is self-reflective. We're talking about something that builds on itself in a combinatoric way, as we saw with the DeepSeek models, building on the Llama models, building on a long, long history of research into transformers and other architectures. And this whole thing is going really, really fast. And the payoff, I would love to talk about healthcare, right? Some of the things we're able to do in healthcare now that we've only dreamed about, things that we dreamed about 50 years ago that we actually solved, like the protein folding problem, and we're just getting started.
Right.
Yes.
Let's go to healthcare, because to the point that you're making here, it's often seen as kind of the next frontier. And so to the extent that you can really accelerate the industry via AI, where's the greatest promise?
So, well, picking up on this idea that we're now able to predict, given an amino acid sequence, the protein's shape in 3 dimensions, right? Well, that was an amazing problem. I remember in college talking about that with a professor and thinking, well, that might be 50 years, 100 years in the future. Well, that happened. Maybe took 40 years. But that's the lowest level. We want to be able to simulate not just proteins, but proteins interacting with DNA and cells and tissues and organs and bodies and societies with lots of bodies, and all the psychology about what makes you take a medicine or not take a medicine. That's what's at stake here, and that's what we can see a path to doing with AI and these other techniques, and that is unbelievably exciting. Now, will it take 10, 20, 40 years? I don't know.
I hope less. I think we're all pretty excited about it, Marty. So really appreciate your enthusiasm and your experience. Marty Chavez there of 6th Street talking to us about the development of this fascinating new technology.